The Heavenly Demon. Can't Live a Normal Life. By Sanchin. Chapter 114. Golden Welcoming. Part 1. Cairo's Great Victory. It was a huge war. The people of the south cheered enthusiastically, but far away, in the capital of Cairo, it was different. Did you hear the news? What? I heard that the Hector kingdom crossed the border and attacked the southern front. According to the merchants coming from the south, the situation was bad. I was worried that I could be conscripted for it. Men who aren't yet in their 50s should perform their national duties in case of an emergency, remember? Even if the Kronos Empire attacks, nothing will happen, so why would we be called if Hector attacks? Cairo was a warring nation. Those who heard the news that the Kronos Empire attacked the west from time to time didn't care much about Hector's threat. Moreover, due to the central government, Cairo's capital was more important than any other nation. The people in the capital who treated other regions as outskirts didn't feel as though it was a crisis when the south was attacked, to the extent that there was a saying passed down from generations to send people only to the capital. But, because the nobles cared about it, there was an indirect aftermath of the war. They can't raise taxes just for the war budget. How can this country not have a peaceful day? If I had been born a member of the Kronos Empire, I wouldn't have been this anxious. The plight of a small country is truly pitiful. They only murmured over a passing conversation at that time, and they continued to live a normal life that was no different from other days. But, they didn't know that the Hector kingdom crossed the border with 10,000 troops, and Cairo's hero was born in a very unfavorable situation when the rear positions were captured. If they knew that Roman Dmitri defeated Butler, the 5-star swordsman, they would have been more shocked. Yet, that news didn't reach the capital. When people were spending their normal days at that time, a gust of wind from the south was slowly approaching the capital. At that time, on the same day, in Cairo Royal Academy's Class D, the last practice match was being held for the swordsmanship test. Next up, William Castro and Lauren Dmitri. The professor called the students. In an instant, joy and happiness were divided. William Castro and his friends burst into laughter with confidence, while Lauren Dmitri sat alone thinking. William Castro was infamous in Class D. With a promotion to Class C almost confirmed, Lauren Dmitri knew that he had no chance of winning here. But, what could he do? The professor had called for the two, and if he didn't go through, he would be expelled. Beep. Start. The signal was given. William Castro rushed ahead as if waiting for it. He was confident he could win this battle. Lauren Dmitri was unable to react to the opponent's attacks. Tatak. It was a one-sided fight. Lauren Dmitri was busy defending against the wooden sword, which attacked him from all directions, and William Castro showed off the swordsmanship he had learned. Lauren Dmitri's face began to get drenched in sweat. Lauren was just 165 centimeters tall, which was short for men, and he couldn't handle being physically overwhelmed. William Castro was 188 centimeters tall. He was a giant compared to Lauren. Knowing he was going to win, he began swinging his sword back and forth at Lauren. Then, hack. Ack. The wooden sword pierced his back. It was the attack that ended the match. Lauren Dmitri, who had been unilaterally toyed with for 5 minutes, screamed and fell to the ground. He couldn't raise his head. Seeing him groan and clutch his back, William Castro mumbled in a low voice so the professor wouldn't hear. Moron. Smirk. And stepped back. Lauren couldn't look up at William, but he knew his friends were cheering. The humiliation didn't end there. Announcing the duel's result, the professor spoke in a cold voice. Lauren Dmitri. What did I say in the last class? Your biggest problem is that you do not have the mindset of a swordsman. It is like a guy who entered the academy to learn the sword and decides to close his eyes before even looking at the opponent's sword. Pathetic. If the test shows the same performance as today, it would be better to prepare to head down to Class E. Class E was for those who were under the age of 15. If that happened, it would be obvious how people would look at the 18-year-old Lauren. He clenched his fists. Lauren Dmitri didn't have the courage to scream or the strength to get up. The duel was over. Lauren, who was relaxing in the break room, held his breath while watching William and his party enter. Lauren is here, they said. William Castro picked up his belongings and deliberately talked loudly so that Lauren could hear him. I mean, it is amazing. I had a chance to meet the Class S senior in the past, and Rodwell Dmitri Sr. was so amazing to watch that I admired him. At that time, I wasn't so familiar with the world, so I thought the Dmitri family was all great. Rodwell Dmitri, a name recognized by people in the capital. Due to his rapid advancement to Class S, people naturally paid attention to Lauren, who was of the same family. But, so what? For that, there is a limit to being born in the world. People call it a miracle that someone like Rodwell Dmitri was born into the Dmitri family. The truth is, it is quite natural to go back and forth from the bottom like that. Isn't that right? There is nothing we can do with the limitations of birth, but it is like trying to do something we cannot. Lauren bowed his head. He acted as if he couldn't hear them, but his face continued to turn red. It was like this every time. Being Rodwell's younger brother, the shadow was thick. Lauren Dmitri had a fragile personality and couldn't say anything since he entered the academy. No fun. I know. Was it because he lost interest? The topic changed. But is it true that Roman Dmitri defeated Homer? I assure you that it has to be a rumor spread by the Dmitri family itself. Dmitri is a descendant of a wealthy family that rose to power. How would they deal if the eldest was famous for being a jerk? His reputation would have to be so bad that they would need to spread rumors. Two miracles do not happen in one family. Look, you can tell by looking at Lauren Dmitri. Again, the arrow of comparison continued to fly. It was always the same. The third son of Dmitri, Lauren Dmitri gulped back his emotions. It was a hard day for Lauren Dmitri. The class ended, and Lauren Dmitri went out into the streets. If he didn't breathe fresh air, it felt like his emotions would explode. Is the news about brother Roman true? Roman Dmitri's shocking actions were known even in the capital. Defeating Homer at the age of just mid-20s was staggering, and people said a new miracle was born within the Dmitri family. The problem was that Lauren Dmitri, of the same blood, couldn't accept it. Contrary to popular opinion, some people were saying that Roman could be stronger than what the rumors said, but thinking about the past, he was sure that couldn't be the case. Dmitri's fool, it wasn't a nickname given for nothing. At least, it was what Lauren Dmitri remembered of his brother, who lived without a worry about the world. I remember that brother Roman isn't a bad person, at least not to me. But, as William said, if someone asks if it is true that my brother managed to do that, I am not sure if I could say yes. Anyone who saw him would know it was a lie. I don't know why father spread such rumors, but Roman was drunk on the day I left home too. There was one time when Roman was also normal. At that time, he trained hard on his own to meet the expectations of the family, but when he realized that he wasn't as talented as he thought and that Rodwell was a genius, that was the moment his status as eldest son fell to the ground. Roman Dmitri began to deviate from his normal life. He could understand because he knew what it felt like to be compared with Rodwell. So he tried to get closer to Roman, but had no desire to become like him. He sighed. And it was then that, from afar, people flocked, making a commotion. Whisper. What is happening? He wanted to forget his complicated thoughts at that moment. As he stepped through the crowd, people lined up on either side, waiting for someone. Is that really true? I am sure. My relatives live in the South, and they miraculously defeated them and reclaimed the South when it almost got taken by the Hector Kingdom. Do you know what is even more insane? In the process, Roman Dmitri did really absurd things. Roman Dmitri? The youngest ranker who defeated Homer? Yes, it is still unconfirmed, but there is a saying that he defeated the Hector Kingdom with just 200 troops. Not only that, there are testimonies that he defeated Butler, the 5-star swordsman of Hector, in the Battle of Great Warriors, but I didn't believe that yet as it sounded surreal. The people around him were saying things. Lauren's eyes widened. He heard about the war with Hector. The academy had many kids from noble families, and he overheard them when they were talking. But even though he defeated the Hector kingdom, the details were too shocking. Is it true that they are talking about the brother Roman that I know? Brother Roman defeated the Hector kingdom with just 200 troops, and as if that wasn't enough, he also defeated Butler of the Hector kingdom? This is too much. The rumors were exaggerated. Defeating Homer itself was unbelievable. Meanwhile, hearing the news from the south, Lauren Dmitri didn't know how to react. He was shocked. Get out of the way. They are the heroes of the south. Open the way. The reason people flocked was to welcome the triumphant soldiers. At the sight of the guards raising their voices while walking in front of them, the people were cheering. Among the people walking, Lauren felt too dumbfounded. Until his eyes widened at the sight of a man moving ahead in the front on a stylish horse. Be Brother Roman? Roman Dmitri appeared in front of his eyes with cheers from people who looked very different from his own memories. Chapter 115. Golden Welcoming. Part 2. A few days ago, upon hearing the report that Cairo's main troops were attacking the rear point, people gathered in the conference room with serious expressions. If that is the case, what happens to us if we fail to retrieve the position? They were the words of a nobleman belonging to the royal family. The nobles of the central government didn't attend. Daniel Cairo spoke with a desperate look. The responsibility for the defeat rests with the royal family. Even if the nation's command system is hampered, the people will try to hold the king accountable for the war. From then on, I can no longer raise my voice as a king. The central government nobles are like hyenas who would do anything to bring me down. Damn those guys. Still, they are born in Cairo, so they should at least think nicely. They were too stiff. The nobles of the central government, Marquis Benedict, Count Gregory, and Count Denver. They didn't do their best to help the southern front. Winning or losing this war didn't matter to them. If they failed to retrieve the rear position, the Hector kingdom might refuse to negotiate, and they would hand over the land to the Kronos Empire. Then, the status of the royal family would fall to rock bottom. The people residing on the border with the Kronos Empire in the south and west would panic in fear, not knowing when they would be attacked. Daniel Cairo said, "The nobles of the central government must think that whatever choice they make will be beneficial to them. If Cairo's main troops win, then it will be good to get over the crisis, and if they lose, then the nobles can use it to pressure the royal family. It isn't the safety of Cairo that they are worried about. If they really wanted the Cairo kingdom to be revived, they wouldn't have stayed still and watched the south fall like that. Even if they had to spend money, they would have given priority to negotiating with the Hector kingdom. Why did the nation end up like this? From the moment he took over the throne, he didn't want it. Daniel Cairo couldn't even get a single good night's sleep. The enemy that threatens Cairo is within. They selfishly seek their own gain, but we cannot act like them. We need to prepare for the future if we lose here, even if we have to be stoned by the people. In order for us to not lose our meaning as a royal family, we need to hold on to it until the end." "I understand. We accept the orders." The nobles bowed their heads. Even the weak and feeble king had some nobles following him. It was because he truly cared for the kingdom. If he had been born in good times, he would have been called a saint. However, the reality was never that good, and the weak king was easy prey for the hyenas. The meeting continued, and contingency plans were made. As the meeting finally ended and the people in the room got up from their seats to prepare for what they discussed, news from the southern front was suddenly delivered. "Is that really true? We will live. Victory in just a few hours." At the shocking result that nobody expected, Daniel Cairo's face turned red. Golden welcoming, a spectacular grand feast. As Roman returned as a hero, the nobles in the capital welcomed him. "You worked really hard. thanks to you, Cairo got out of a terrible situation. They heard the rumors. To be precise, each of them learned about the great things that Roman did. Among them, Count Fabius said, "Actually, I still can't believe that what I heard is real from start to finish." Roman. Dmitri came up with the strategy that brought down the Hector kingdom. Roman knew exactly what his opponent was trying to do, so he set up a trap for the Hector kingdom and beat Butler, who was a 5-star swordsman. Marquis Benedict, I have never seen such talent in my life. Even the existence of the best sword on the continent wouldn't have shown such progress at the age of 20. Roman Dmitri is a person who will unconditionally achieve greater success as a swordsman and commander. It was commendable. Even though he was a person they desperately wanted, Roman's value began to rise again. Defeating Butler and his skill as a commander was shocking and made them feel bad about what they had done before. A grand feast celebrating Roman's return was prepared. Even the nobles had given up all their pride, wanting to get Roman on their side. "Roman Dmitri, I finally get to see you. I greet His Majesty." It was Daniel Cairo. The nobles opened up a path for him. Even though he was a puppet king, they weren't stupid enough to be rude to the king in a place with so much attention. "I wanted to express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the Cairo kingdom. You showed the will of Cairo against the Hector kingdom. You defeated Hector with daring courage and brought peace back to us. Is there anything you wish for? I will make sure to grant whatever you want to the best of my ability." It was time for a reward. It was the authority of a king, and everyone's attention was focused on Daniel Cairo's words. Before Roman Dmitri could speak, Daniel Cairo added, "At the same time, the position of deputy commander for the Royal Knights is vacant. If you wish, I wouldn't mind granting you the title and giving you access to the royal treasury. You can take the wealth from there, or if you want, you can learn the knowledge of Cairo that has been kept for generations. What do you think?" At those words, the hall turned cold. Daniel Cairo's words suggested that he had the intention of taking Roman in, and the nobles could no longer smile. To be given the title of deputy commander of the Royal Knights was a huge honor. Granting the position to someone still in their 20s has never happened before in the history of Cairo. Daniel Cairo said, "The best sword of Cairo is the commander of the Royal Knights. Count Nicholas is looking for someone to succeed him. It would be an amazing chance for you. Even now, you have a talent that shines brighter than anyone else's. If you lead from ahead, you will be able to reach higher ground. There is no need to worry about fulfilling your national duty. Aside from the rewards, I intend to specifically waive your remaining obligations." Daniel Cairo was greedy for the first time. "I want to make Roman Dmitri my vassal. He took over the throne at a young age due to his father's death. The nobles of the central government welcomed him and used him as a puppet for their benefit. That was their reason for treating him respectfully. The heads of the central government, like Marquis Benedict, started to put pressure on the king as soon as he acted as if he could be treated like a subordinate. The king felt like he was being suffocated. Cairo's people considered him their absolute ruler, but in reality, he was something else. Roman Dmitri defeated Butler, a 5-star swordsman. If I could take a person as strong as Count Nicholas as my vassal, even nobles wouldn't be pressing me in haste. From then on, the situation can be reversed. People call me the feeble and weak king, but I refuse to live like this forever." After this war, he began to think differently. Seeing the nobles take care only of themselves, even at the cost of the kingdom, he thought this wasn't right. He removed his weak side and bared his teeth for the first time. Right then, Marquis Benedict's angry voice could be heard. No one would consider the duty given as a reward. "Your Majesty, the Royal Knights, as a military organization, are directly under the royal family. Are you going to force the young talent with a guaranteed future to sacrifice all that? Please take it into consideration. We need to reward our hero." "I agree. I am fine with opening the royal treasury, but this isn't right." Objections were heard in the hall. The nobles of the central government stepped forward. Each of them added words, saying that Daniel Cairo's words weren't right. Since when did joining the Royal Knights turn into a sacrifice? Royal Knight, it was the most honorable organization for knights. At one time, the sons of noble families worked their entire lives to join the Royal Knights, but after the collapse of the royal family's power, they considered it to be the worst organization to be a part of. As the nobles speculated, Roman might not be pleased with this proposal. However, since he already said it, he wasn't going to take it back. Marquis Benedict, I said what I wanted. From now on, it is up to Roman Dimitri to decide what he wants. He crossed the line. The king decided to stand his ground, unlike his usual self. For a moment, Marquis Benedict's expression distorted, but Daniel Cairo didn't mind and looked at Roman. Everyone looked at him. If Roman said he would follow Daniel Cairo, the Cairo kingdom would fall into chaos and terror. The king's proposal was surprising. Daniel Cairo, whom Roman remembered as a feeble king, looked at him with unwavering eyes. Still, is it because of his royal blood? The public's opinion of Daniel Cairo as a fragile king might be far from the truth. He had no choice but to bow his head under pressure ever since he was young and was labeled weak. There was finally a chance to change this. Daniel Cairo walked out of the line. This will surely make things harder in the future, but he felt that Roman Dimitri was worth the sacrifice. But there is no reason for me to take the side of the Cairo royal family. The war against the Hector kingdom made Roman realize that he hadn't fully grasped the new world. Edwin Hector, Magic, and Butler. The people of the Cairo kingdom say that it was amazing to defeat them, but by his standards, it wasn't that great. Edwin Hector? He was just a 4-circle magician. Magicians with 7 circles were called archmages and were known to be able to cause natural disasters with magic. And Butler? He was ranked 2nd in the Hector kingdom. However, in the public ranking of the continent, Butler was at the bottom. Right now, this is all I am. A frog in the well, a being who cannot raise his head proudly outside Cairo. Daniel Cairo. Marquis Benedict. Count Gregory. Count Denver. They, too, were frogs in a well. Because this is the Cairo kingdom, they act all-powerful, but when they get out of this place, they will be nothing. So, no proposal could be accepted. What was required now was to maintain the balance of power while delegating a few responsibilities to others. So Roman said, "This war made me realize that the world is wide. The Royal Knights is an honorable organization for a swordsman, but before I decide on my future, there are things I want to do." What could they be? Daniel asked. It was an obvious refusal. Daniel Cairo didn't hide his feelings. In contrast, the nobles were smiling. Actually, if I hadn't been exempted from military duty, I was planning to do 2 full years. After a few days in the capital, I plan to head back to my family. I'll take some time to process the new insights I've gained on the battlefield. I'm not sure how long that will take, but one day, I will be completely ready. He raised his head. He spoke of his future plans to those who were watching him. I will be challenging the public ranking. Public ranking. At those words, everyone's eyes trembled. Chapter 116. Golden Welcoming. Part 3. Human emotions were strange. If Roman Dimitri simply said he needed time, no matter how great and talented he was, the powerful people in Cairo would continue to aim for him. However, the public ranking was a different thing. The public ranking match? Yes? The public ranking represents an endless challenge that tests one's limits. You duel until you lose, and the place where you finally kneel is your ranking. The problem is that this isn't something to talk about lightly. The more one tests the limit, the more intense the fights become, and you might lose your life. I know. The public ranking was a sensitive issue. As it was a battle between the strong, it wasn't strange to die at any moment, and the duels were always severe. A one-time match meant that if Roman Dimitri, who was in the 100th rank, defeated the 99th ranker, he could immediately go for the next in rank. It was a way of fighting until a set limit was reached, so the rankers who accepted the challenge didn't always aim for this. It was only natural. Rather than drawing their swords and challenging rankers who were stronger than them, they just let themselves enjoy the position. Who would want to be a victim of the public ranking? Everyone wanted to avoid endless challenges. Nevertheless, Roman Dimitri's declaration showed how confident he was. Roman Dimitri defeated Butler of the Hector kingdom. The fact that someone already qualifies to rise to the top of the public ranking with this result alone and would challenge himself to aim higher in the public ranking is amazing. Even if he is in a situation where he can enjoy wealth and fame, he would want to give everything up to take on the new challenge. Daniel Cairo admired Roman Dimitri even though there wasn't much of an age difference between them. Although he hadn't yet fully experienced the world, Roman Dimitri took a different step. As expected from the hero of Cairo. You made a great decision. With this, the ranking in Cairo will change. You are now a man known as the one who defeated Butler of the Hector kingdom. Who can stop you now? I am already looking forward to it. The nobles responded with interest. Roman turned down the offer to become a royal knight, but at the same time, he wanted to prove his worth. However, that wouldn't stop them. And it will be a good opportunity to assess Roman Dimitri's skills. I cannot just blindly believe the rumors that he defeated Butler. Roman is still in his mid-20s. We can find out his true level through the public ranking. It wasn't bad. The public ranking match looked like a good place to evaluate him. He was not only able to delay his response, but he was also able to lure them with a topic he knew they would be interested in. In addition, the time it took to prepare and proceed with the public ranking matches would give them time to convince him. It would be an open competition, and Roman took advantage of it. He raised his value and ignited the competitive spirit of those who coveted him. Roman said, "In the near future, I will present myself in front of everyone, and then I will decide on what to do next." At that, everyone accepted it immediately. Daniel Cairo, who offered him a position in the Royal Knights, and the other three nobles believed that the ambiguous answer was directed at them. However, there was no truth to that. When the public ranking matches were done, a new play will start. Roman Dimitri would not be someone's sword, but he would be someone who would play the lead. Marquis Benedict called Roman after the party. Marquis Benedict, who was already slightly drunk, poured him a glass of alcohol and asked, "Swish. A person's destiny is so interesting. I sent you to the southern front, wanting to take care of you, but the Hector kingdom had declared war. Surprisingly, you stopped it and turned into a hero." The glass was already full. Roman drank it while looking at Marquis Benedict. Tack. Thanks for the great experience. Great experience? Yes. Through the war with the Hector kingdom, I learned that the world I knew wasn't everything, so I decided to do the public ranking matches to test how strong I am in the Cairo kingdom. When I am finally convinced that there is no one above me, I want to be the best on the continent. The best on the continent, a dream tailored for your age. He took another sip. Marquis Benedict also once dreamed of being the best. However, the continent was a place full of monsters beyond his imagination, and the day he faced reality, he decided that he would live a nice life in the Cairo kingdom. He stopped his childish dream of becoming the best when he attained a position and gained power in the central government. Although he didn't live a decent life, he was still considered someone with great power in Cairo. Marquis Benedict said, "I have one daughter. I tried so hard to give birth to a son, but my wife died prematurely, so I couldn't try for more. People told me to marry a new wife and have a son like other nobles. But strangely, I didn't like the feeling of it." Marquis Benedict's story was famous. Even though there were horrible rumors about him, he never said much about himself, despite being powerful. It didn't matter what he was called outside. At least at home, he was a father who had eyes for his only daughter. "I will give my daughter to you." Tack. He put down his glass. Anyone who knew Marquis Benedict realized that the meaning of those words wasn't light. I told Fabius that you are not naive. Listening to your accomplishments and the way you spoke about going to fights in front of so many, I was reminded of the monsters of the continent I met when I was young. I am sure of it. I am not born with great abilities as others are, but at least I have the ability to recognize that the guy named Roman Dmitri will be comparable to them. I had a broken engagement. I know. I wouldn't have proposed the marriage without knowing it. Neither do I intend to force you on my daughter. However, it means that I am willing to arrange the meeting so the two of you can meet, and if it works, move ahead. He was drinking too much. Hearing the news that Butler had been defeated, Roman's status changed. Marquis Benedict knew that Roman Dmitri could not be brought in with normal rewards. There was only one solution then. Blood ties. Marquis Benedict accepted the Dmitri family, even though nobles cared more about where they came from than how famous they were now. I will not ask you to meet my daughter right now. As I said before, you will need plenty of time to move ahead. As always, I, Marquis Benedict, will have your back. If you take my hand and say that you will side with me in the future, you will get everything you want in the Cairo kingdom. Marriage to the Benedict family meant that he could inherit the powers of the house, and it proved how Marquis Benedict's desire for Roman was strong. With that, the drinking talks ended. Marquis Benedict's proposal had one clear conclusion. Roman Dmitri. Whoever possesses him will be devouring the Cairo kingdom. His existence disrupted the balance of power. Perhaps the thoughts of other nobles weren't much different. Roman was contacted by Count Gregory and Count Denver afterward. The offers of the forces that divided the Cairo kingdom were great. Daniel Cairo offered the position of deputy commander of the Royal Knights. Marquis Benedict proposed marriage. And the offers of Count Gregory and Denver were equally convincing. I do not mean to put pressure on you. At some point, the Kronos Empire will unify the continent. It's either King Daniel or Marquis Benedict. After all, those living in Cairo cannot give you much power. I promise you power in the Kronos Empire. The moment you accept the offer, the Kronos Empire will change your life forever. Valhalla's proposal remains the same as before. In addition to giving you the title of a noble and an estate, I will give you a chance to enter the warrior's tomb, and you should know what that means. The warrior's tomb is the place where the warriors who have graced Valhalla are buried, and their weapons and lifelong knowledge are left there. If you want to be the best sword on the continent, the Valhalla Empire is the right path for you. Both offers were extravagant. People thought Daniel Cairo's proposal was shocking, but when they looked at the whole picture, the other three nobles put everything on the line. Roman was that strong. Even though Butler was at the bottom of the continent's ranking, Roman was able to defeat him at a young age. Being in his mid-20s meant that he had a bright future. Since Roman Dimitri's growth was definitive, they all made unusual and radical proposals. If one wanted a comfortable life, whatever one chose, wealth and power would follow. This was exactly why Daniel Cairo's proposal should be excluded, but the other three had perfect future plans too. Yet Roman didn't bother thinking about it. I am a person who cannot live under someone. In his past life, from the moment he fell to the bottom of life, he continued to go up one step after another and tramp on the beings above him. There were many people who approached him with tempting suggestions every time. They said they would give everything to him, but they weren't worth it. After all, their desires and attitudes will change if I go against them. The top position I want is one where I have authority over everything, rather than being swayed by the decisions of others. My own existence is upright no matter what happens to those around me. It gave him a different kind of comfort. He was just using them now. The kindness they gave sought rewards, and it would be difficult to be deceived by their offers as he had already lived a difficult life. His throat burned with desire. Just thinking about what would happen after the public ranking matches was already making Roman excited. Roman's accommodation in the capital was extravagant. The royal family and the nobles in the central government paid extra attention to it. Thus, Roman and his men were able to stay in a good place with their help, And when he finally arrived, Hans greeted Roman. "Young master." He was the same as always. Hans followed closely with his short legs and gave Roman his robe. "I heard you had a hard time on the southern front. Did you get hurt? You don't know how much my heart shook when I heard the news. Still, I am glad you are safe." "It was nothing." "Is that so?" Hans smiled softly. This young man was seriously such a good person. On the same day, Roman was able to get enough rest after a long time. Hans had already prepared warm water in the bathtub, fragrant candles, and food that he enjoyed in Dmitri in advance. Rest was as important as training. As soon as he was finally able to relax, he was able to put those complicated thoughts out of his mind. Then, Roman focused on getting better from the wounds he got on the battlefield. And a few days later, Roman heard something unexpected from Hans. "Young master, I might be stepping out of line, but could you please meet young master Lauren?" Lauren Dmitri. He was suddenly reminded of his brother's existence, whom he hadn't met before.